I was also asked to discuss the epidemic of murdered and missing Indigenous women and girls. The crisis of murdered and missing Indigenous women is not new. In fact, in our own area, the rape and murder of a Native woman and her daughter has been attributed to the cause of the 1855 Yakima War between the Yakima tribe and the U.S. Army. According to a study commissioned by the National Institute of Justice, results show that more than 4 in 5 American Indian and Alaska Native women have experienced violence in their lifetime. And a study by the Urban Indian Health Institute shows Washington State ranks second highest in the nation for cases of missing and murdered Indigenous persons, with the city of Seattle ranking first among cities nationwide. In 2016, there were 5,712 cases of murdered and missing Indigenous women and girls reported to local agencies, with only 116 of them logged into the Department of Justice database. Of the 120 people on the Washington State Patrol's list of missing Indigenous people, 34 of those have ties to the Yakima Nation or the Yakima area in central Washington. Many of these cases have gone cold. Native women and girls throughout the United States have suffered physical and sexual violence at disproportionate rates for centuries. The murder rate of Native women in some tribal communities is more than 10 times the national average. These disappearances or murders are often connected to domestic violence, sexual assault, and sex trafficking, according to the National Indigenous Women's Resource Center. Chris Cuestas from the National Violence Prevention Resource Center states contributing factors in solving cases are the inability to share data through information systems, the lack of defined reporting protocols, and, unfortunately, tribes being too secretive in exchanging information. Funding also is a factor too. When cracking cell phone data can cost up to $2,500 to have it done, many agencies can't or won't pay for these services. It is imperative that every tribe have similar protocols that have specific steps to follow on every case, which is a problem because when there are varying protocols or very often no protocol at all, they don't know what's been done in a case, who followed up, and who did what. And so very often those cases just fall through the cracks. How law agencies handle MMIW cases impact resolution too. Long-standing treaties say state and federal law enforcement, quote, may have jurisdiction over tribal lands. This can often result in an agency offloading work if a case looks unsolvable, or maybe it gets a little difficult because the families it's difficult for them to share information out there. And so these agencies can just pass on to one another jurisdiction, and it becomes a bouncing ball. On a local level, what are some of the reasons or observations for the high rate of MMIW in Yakima region? These are elements Chris observed when analyzing the problem for Yakima Tribal Council. The first, at the very top, is significant gang problem. 6 very hostile gangs related to the 2 major gangs, Mexican Mafia and the Western Familia. They control literally different sides of the track. You can see on train signal boxes, I didn't know this, and now every time I go by a railroad track, I look and see. You can see on boxes, train signaling boxes, signs, gang signs for territorial control. They literally, on one side of the trafficking box, will be one gang sign, and on the other side of the box will be another gang sign, signifying you don't cross this line. This is a territorial thing. Transient populations, because of our climate and the agricultural industry with a high level of trucking activity in and out of the region, which makes it very easy to transport, do sex trafficking and other things to get people in and out of the region quickly. Facebook pages showed Chris an amazing number of youth showing guns or even showing off wounds they received in gang fights. And gaming, casino access, where, and this is one thing that really got me, where Mexican nationals were pointing out girls at casinos to target for offers. There, they would point out possible victims. There are 3 ways that women become victims: through coercion, with promises for a better life, make better money, whatever, in modeling. That's one of the favorite things to entice young women, is they'll make them models. They can become rich. And through violence. What's being done to address this crisis? The Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women with People Task Force was established in Washington State last year with their first meeting in December 2021. The Washington State Legislature also created the Washington State MMIW Task